What do you think should happen to Senator Franken?
You know, a lot of people are talking about what's happening in this country, and is this a watershed moment? I don't know if it's a watershed moment or not. What's been going on has been going on. I'm not old, but I'm seasoned. There isn't a woman of my generation. I was one of the first, worked for an auto company, have been around Capitol Hill in different roles over the years. It was a fact of life. It was Republicans, it was Democrats. People knew who to avoid. You tried to watch out for each other. But if you said anything, you were the troublemaker. You were the person that would pay the price. Right now, we need, both House and Senate have now said we're going to have mandatory sexual harassment training. There are clearly outrageous situations where people have been violated, and we got to figure out how we're going to deal with those. We've got to, I don't know if there are more stories. I don't have all of the facts. I think we've got to be careful to make sure that people are not guilty until proven innocent, and that you are innocent until proven guilty. But there's a lot of, it's not just in Capitol Hill, though.
Yeah, no, my goodness. I mean, listen, we've been covering it. It's Hollywood, it's the media, it's Silicon Valley, it's Wall Street. But I mean, in terms of innocent until proven guilty, do you apply that same standard to Roy Moore?
Well, for me, when I see, and I'm not saying that Al Franken doesn't need to pay the price. I want to be very clear on that.
But what is that price? Just to be clear, what is the price?
I think that if we see more, I think it's there in my, well, first, I don't think that any of the stories that I could tell or a lot of the people could tell are okay. I think teenage girls is something that I find disgusting. And I can't tell you what that does to me.
So that puts it in a different category for you.
That puts it in a very different category for me. But there are a lot of men up in Capitol Hill. There are a lot of men throughout the country that have been inappropriate in their jokes, and hopefully you're going to start thinking about it. But then there are people, like my first job, I'd never met John Dingell. I was stalked. I had a man who was my supervisor who found out about my father, who I've only talked about in the last year or two, tried to blackmail me, tried to do everything he could. Other people knew about it, and I was told, look, 14th floor, which was the executive floor, likes him. Deal with it or leave. That's not okay. That is simply not okay. None of these things are okay.
But tell me more about that. I mean, since you have been in politics for a long time, what is your Me Too story?
I have too many of them. I mean, you know, there was a senator who, I was married, but I didn't want my husband to know because I was afraid he might kill him. Everybody at my office knew, and the minute we were at a social setting, somebody would move in to protect me so I'd never be alone.
Because he was aggressive towards you.
He would be aggressive, not only towards me, everybody on Capitol Hill knew it. I just happened to be one of his people. I was with a very prominent historical person, and I'm not going to name who this person is, and that's part of the problem. A lot of women don't have the courage, because even though they've got the Me Too story, there are consequences. And we have to get to a point, let this be a watershed moment in changing the culture. And men understanding it's not okay. Because the fact of the matter is, look, I'm a United States Congresswoman, and I've been around, and I'm luckier than 99% of the women. For too many women, those Me Too stories are going to have consequences. Economic, if you're a waitress, or you're on a factory floor, or you're in a small business and you target the small business, where's their job? But I would still pay a price if I were to name some of them. I was lucky the night it happened. I didn't know what to do. I was a first year of marriage, so it tells you how long ago it was. Historical figure, hand kept going up the leg. I took it off. A woman member was at my table, recognized what was happening, and said, switch places. You know, we watch out for each other. That's the other thing we've got to do. But we've got to change. People need to speak up.
Yeah.
Men and women. Speak up and say it's not okay.
That is happening. I mean, look, I hear it, I feel it. Sure, but let me ask you about that, because as you know, now that the curtain has been peeled back about what's happening on Capitol Hill, as you know, some of your colleagues, Congresswoman Jackie Speier and Barbara Comstock, they have come forward to talk about two sitting lawmakers, okay, still in Congress right now functioning, who have engaged in sexual harassment and lewd behavior, but they haven't named those lawmakers. And I'm just wondering, Congresswoman, in the interest of sunlight, in the interest of what you're talking about, should those sitting male lawmakers be named?
Well, I don't know who they're talking about. You know, I've heard rumors for a long time. I want to I'm going to give you a different side of it, which is we have to protect those that and one of my colleagues says we can't call them victims. We need to call them the survivors. And we need to, but women are still going to pay the consequences. That's what I want to figure out. How do we protect the survivor so that in the end they're not labeled a troublemaker? You know, it sounds great for the moment, but are they going to be able to get the next job? Yeah. If you're in a law firm, are you going to get promoted to partner? If you're at a hospital, is it going to hurt your getting ahead? There are consequences still.
Yes, but
and we got to figure out how we're going to make sure that women don't. There's a young woman. This is different but the same. Go to Title IX for a minute. A high school student in Lansing who was raped and spoke out school about it. She could never return to school. She was ostracized.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is to say, I love the Me Too movement. And if you're a member of Congress or you're in the media or you're in Hollywood, we're a lot luckier than most women across this country.
This is my point. Exactly, Congresswoman. Exactly. You are in a position of power. You are a powerful woman in this country. If you can't name the person who did it to you, why not? Hasn't the tide turned?
No. And I've said that to my colleagues. I don't think it's the watershed moment that so many people think it is, because I still think that for too many, there are consequences in naming who the person is. And what we have to do is change the culture, and that we have to have everybody speak up and do the mandatory sexual harassment training so people understand what's acceptable and what's not.
Yeah.
And how do you make the pendulum, like people were afraid to hug each other goodbye for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And you know, the pendulum.
Look, obviously, there's a possibility of an overcorrection, but that's okay. We're due for a correction. But if this isn't the watershed moment, what are you waiting for? What would a watershed moment look like to you?
A watershed moment is going to be the time when that tip waitress that works back in my district is going to be able to step up and say something's wrong and not be afraid of losing her job or not having an income to support her family.
Yeah.
When somebody who works at a small business and the owner of it is totally inappropriate can really go do something about it and not be afraid she'll lose her job and never be able to get another job. That's real.
One last question about this $17 million in settlements that we've now learned of in just the past week since the 1990s. Why aren't the guilty? Why is this taxpayer money? Why wasn't the guilty paying out of their own pockets? And who authorized those settlement payments?
I learned about it at the same time as you did. We are all trying to get more information. I think the House Administration Committee is getting more information about it. I think that there was further clarification that it wasn't all.
It's not all sexual harassment. But still,
I want to know what the money is and why it's being, and why. I think we all need to see the sunshine and the transparency on that.
So Congress is working to reveal that to all of us.
I'm told that people are trying to get the facts in that. I think there needs to be more transparency in all of this. You know, you get all these claims. I mean, I'm aware of other things where there have been sexual harassment claims and people settle and there are confidentiality agreements in them. Is that the fair thing to do? Is that the right thing to do?
Right.
Do people have a right to know that, you know, and by the way, there's another side to it. Some women have filed inappropriate claims and you're not allowed to say to other people about that either.
I know.
How do you have a, you know, it's a complicated subject.
It is.
But you and I are both angry because you and I have both had it and we both have had our Me Too moments.
I appreciate that, Congresswoman, but I also think that it's just, this is the conversation. This is the moment where we shed sunlight on it, we talk about it, and then hopefully we can figure out some of these complications. But we really appreciate you coming on and weighing in on what's going on Capitol Hill. Thanks so much for being here.